Greetings, comrades. This is Darksnovia, once again bringing you another podcast, this time on Clone Wars 2003. Unlike 2008, we don't have to rewatch a series for over 100 hours. So you can rewatch it just 2 hours, analyze it, talk about the pros and cons, and really talk about how underrated this show is nowadays, because a lot of Star Wars fans don't really know what this show is at this point, considering
TCW.
I wouldn't say because of TCW. I would say because how little time it was on TV. It was only on TV for like 3 years.
Well,
TCW was on TV for like well over a decade.
Well, to be fair, Clone Wars 3 was meant to be a tie-in and the events between 2 and 3, so it makes sense the timestamp that it was the time.
Yeah, and then you gotta remember, they never re-released it on DVD and Blu-ray. Like, they had it on DVD for a time, and then they stopped.
Yeah, that is a shame. But anyway, I think we'll discuss that later. So before we start that, so introductions. Darksnovia introduced himself. General CJG here, as always.
And this is the Spider Fan Maniac, here to talk about this awesome series.
Avalon?
Hello everyone, Avalon 1000 again from the Mystic Island of Avalon, ready to discuss this awesome series.
Okay, nice. And we got one of our previous recent guests. Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, it's Neo Reality Entertainment, and we're here to finally talk about the series that really should be talked about more nowadays, but sadly isn't.
Yeah, indeed. So, without further ado, shall we begin with how we were introduced to this series? Who goes first?
I do.
Okay, go.
So, I was introduced to the show essentially because it's Star Wars. It's Star Wars. I love the prequels. I grew up with them. And then I hear that more Star Wars content and it takes place during the Clone Wars. Sign me up for that. And then I didn't know who was working on it, but I did kept saying the animation is very similar to Samurai Jack, and that was awesome. And lo and behold, I found that out years later. I didn't even know if it was a tie-in to episode 3 because I was just a kid.
That's something.
Yeah, that's about it. That was really my big introduction. Oh, it's Star Wars. Okay, let me watch it. Take my money.
Well, it was on TV, so they wouldn't take any money. Anyway, so, okay, who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Around 2006, I was searching for YouTube to see lightsaber fights because, well, lightsaber fights are cool. And then I discovered this one thing where Anakin was fighting this bald-headed woman, which I didn't know the name yet. And I was like, holy shit, there's people who carry more than one lightsaber? Yeah, that was the innovative thing I saw at that time. But yeah, that's my first experience seeing that show. Years later, I saw someone who posted the entire Volume 1 and Volume 2 on YouTube. So yeah, why not? Just watch the whole thing.
Okay, well, I guess there's that. Next?
Okay, let me see here. So yes, I was introduced to Volume 1 of Clone Wars back in 2003. I watched like the whole series for every day that it came out over the course of some weeks. And then I watched Volume 2 of the Clone Wars. It's though not quite as consistently. And so then it was only very recently when I watched the second volume consistently. And I was wowed in the past, especially with the appearance of General Grievous, of the fight between Anakin and Asajj Ventress on Yavin, and with Grievous mopping the floor with the Jedi on Hypori. It was also excellent, and also it's Anakin did a great job with the Space Command. And so then before, I used to think that that the Clone Wars Micro series was great, but now I think it's even better than I remember it.
Nice. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Okay, so mine is an interesting one out of the many interesting ones I have. So I basically started watching it after I had finished watching episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I saw Attack of the Clones when it came out on DVD in 2002, because my dad brought that movie in there. So I had watched episodes 1 and 2. I was already pretty much hooked with Star Wars. Clone Wars 2003, I saw it on TV when it was at the time in 2003. So, because I was already a big fan of Cartoon Network, seeing all sorts of shows like Dexter's Laboratory, Kids Next Door. I think Bugs Bunny was there at the time, and Tom and Jerry, of course. So I was already a big fan of Cartoon Network. So when that show was there, like the first chapter was there at the time, I was like, oh, this is awesome. My only small issue at the time was that it was short. Chapter
Yeah, that
one.
was the kind of complaint I had.
Well, I had that complaint for a while until later I realized the reasons why they did it, and after I got it for DVDs, so that complaint was pretty much nullified eventually. But yeah, though I definitely watched a lot of Clone Wars 2003, the entirety Volume 1 in 2003. Since Volume 2 came out until 2005, I basically saw the original trilogy in the middle of 2003 and 2005. So I basically, by the time I got to Volume 2, I had already seen episodes 1, 2, Clone Wars Volume 1, original trilogy, and then I went to Volume 2, which made me ridiculously hyped for episode 3. So that was interesting. Oh, and I got both DVD sets from, I think it was Blockbuster at the time. So yeah, that's basically my experience. Oh, and I also have some of the action figures of Clone Wars 2003. So there is that. But yeah, that's my experience with Clone Wars 2003. I loved it a lot back then, and I still love it to this day. So, not much more from me now. So, Darksnovia, go ahead.
Oh, for me, this series, I wasn't able to catch all of it when the episodes aired for the first time. Most of the time when I watched this series, back when it first came out, was reruns in preparation for Volume 2.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, I couldn't help but be intrigued by General Grievous. General Grievous was such a badass motherfucker. It's like, wow, how could anyone beat this guy? I can't wait to see Anakin fight this guy in the future. This guy is awesome. Like, he had an awesome voice, like, he had a menacing presence. It's like he's the prequels version of Darth Vader.
That's awesome.
Of course, unfortunately, Revenge of the Sith, he's kind of a chump, but when I first saw him for the first time, I thought he was badass. And Volume 2, I watched every episode when they aired, and I loved it. It made me excited for Revenge of the Sith. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see the series again until many years later, because DVDs, when they went on sale, they weren't on sale for very long, and they didn't reprint that many copies of them. The series went out of print really quickly.
Yeah, like 2 years later.
Not even that. They didn't even like a complete series set that came with both volumes.
Yeah.
Or include both volumes as a 2-hour theatrical movie.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I'm still waiting. I'm still hoping that they put it on Disney Plus.
Ain't happening. Anyway, so
Magically.
Anything else to say, Darksnovia?
Honestly, the show left me a good impression, and managed to buy a show on DVD for cheap on eBay, and I've been able to watch it more like recently than I did the decade that it came out, and I appreciate it more every time I watch it. And I think it's probably my favorite Clone Wars series. It does a great job complementing the material that it's based on.
Nice. That's it?
Nothing more to say.
Okay. Well, with that out of the way, I guess now we should go to what we think about Clone Wars 2003 in terms of its visuals, presentation, quality, everything aside from storytelling, because we'll get to the story soon. So, what do you guys think?
Ingenious.
That is one way to describe it.
The most interesting part of the show is that it doesn't rely on the dialogue to tell the story. It has more like a visual ways.
Yeah. In fact, that mostly embodies the first volume. Because volume 2, they try to make the chapters longer. But volume 1 is mostly like, 2-3 minutes each?
Yeah. When I was watching the Clone Wars 2003, and I must stress I was like, 7, 8 at the time. I was the impatient guy. I wanted the show to be much longer and more action oriented. because awesome. And I wasn't really into that whole visual style, like the whole, like not the visual artwork they did with it. I'm talking about like, I rather hear what they're saying instead of being told to guess it at times. But looking back on it, I was like, oh God, I really thought that a lot. But I was like, whenever they did the big action stuff, I was like, awesome. Like Mace Windu is so awesome. Kit Fisto's so awesome and whatnot. And when we get to the episode about General Grievous, I'll talk about that.
Oh yeah, another thing I most noticeable is like it obviously resembles Samurai Jack because it's made by the same guy, you know.
Yeah.
Genndy Tartakovsky. Yeah. Something I gotta mention about Clone Wars 2003, visually, for its, well, besides its animation, but also its art style, like, it holds up really well nowadays. Even if it's not at high definition, even at 480p, it still looks great. Like, not
Indeed.
kidding. It looks excellent. Which is more than we can say for a few recent animated TV shows, Resistance. So yeah, that visual style was amazing. What do you guys think of the art style? I thought it looked amazing.
Oh, it's great. Very great.
I loved it. I love Samurai Jack, so clearly I would love this.
I was going to ask which one of you saw Samurai Jack first before Clone Wars 2003.
I did.
Well, more power to you, man, because I never seen Samurai Jack. I've heard a lot.
Really?
I knew this!
Really?
Yeah,
You really got to watch the series. It's great.
In fact, to be honest, I wasn't a fan of the art style at first when I was a kid.
Explain.
Well, I'm just saying this. Me, when I was a kid, it looked like a cheap-looking anime. Okay, when I was that age, when I watched Clone Wars 2003, I was obsessed with Gundam. And that's what was my main anime, and I just thought it looked cheap when I was a kid. It wasn't until I saw like the show in action, when I actually saw like badass action scenes like Mace Windu episodes, when I was completely sold on the animation style.
I mean, speaking of anime, George Lucas did say he wanted the show to resemble Japanese animation style in an interview.
Which explains why it does look anime-ish at times.
Just getting my opinion, what I thought of it when I watched it as a teenager.
I see. I didn't mind it at the time, actually. I loved it.
Well, I'd say at first, I was sold on it later when I saw the show in action.
Okay. So, anything else to say before we go into each chapter individually?
Nothing more to say, actually.
Nothing more, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's go with each chapter then. So, starting with the first chapter, where it starts with Yoda riding his horse, animal, whatever it's called. I forgot the name, sorry. And he basically, he was narrating that the Clone Wars, they spread. And we were basically seeing like a montage of all sorts of battles that were raging across the Clone Wars at the time. From apparently Mace Windu fighting on Dantooine to Luminara Unduli and Barry Sophie fighting in I don't know which planet, to then Anakin and Obi-Wan also fighting. Like that's the introduction we got. Then of course basically Palpatine tasks Obi-Wan to go to Munilis to basically take control of the planet because the banking clan is there, making droid factories and stuff. So, and also Anakin gets tasked to lead the ship commands in the space in Middle East. So, and there we see a damn good scene in which the clones and the ships are getting ready to leave with the same song used in the ending of episode 2. And that's chapter 1. So, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I saw the rain planet where the clones are blasting, and I was assuming, was that Jabim? Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. But anyway, what do you guys thought of that first chapter?
It's interesting. You can already see the tension between the Chancellor and the Jedi. Like, Palpatine's already planning on something. It's pretty obvious to the audience that Palpatine's planning this big thing, and the Jedi doesn't like it. Why Palpatine's so overprotective of Anakin. You can see that, right?
Yeah. At the time, I didn't know Palpatine and Sidious were one and the same until I saw Revenge of the Sith.
I didn't think so either until at least I had seen almost every single Star Wars movie except episode 3. By the time episode 3 came out, that's when I managed to put both the same.
Yeah. But for me, when I saw this episode, I noticed like every time Anakin and Obi-Wan interacted in this episode, or at least when Obi-Wan was trying to dismiss that Anakin, he's probably not ready for this responsibility. And you notice Anakin just gets angry at that. I was thinking to myself, it's kind of weird that they say they're friends, but they never really give me that vibe that they're really friends. Like Obi-Wan probably sees him as a friend, but Anakin sees him as kind of like, oh, I'm stuck with you kind of vibe.
I mean, then again, it's not that far further the time after episode 2.
Yeah, I know. And plus then I remembered Anakin's kind of hot-headed and wants to prove himself and all that, so I could understand that.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll get into a little bit on that later because that does continue. So Darksnovia, Avalon, thoughts on this chapter?
Oh yes. Let me see here. Well, the thing about this was that it's like I liked this chapter and how Anakin puts his hand up to the window and Padme puts her hand up to the other window. It's like it's like a soulmate thing. How they love each other that much. It's like they can't stand to be away from each other. And also, what's more is how within chapter 1, there's also talk about of how. Let me see. You get the impression that Palpatine has great faith in Anakin, and Anakin is very appreciative of that. But then Obi-Wan says that it's too soon for Anakin to take on this responsibility. And the thing is, and Anakin really doesn't like it, with what Obi-Wan's doing. He's basically, Anakin thinks that Obi-Wan's not having enough faith in him. Other than that, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so Darksnovia, anything to say?
Not really. Everyone said what I would have said, so let's move on.
Okay,
Chapter
we're going
2.
to chapter 2. Now, since chapter 3 follows chapter 2 pretty closely, I think we can talk about both of them. So I'm going to narrate basically what happens. So chapter 2, they go to Munilist, and Obi-Wan's talking to the ARC troopers, preparing them for their assignment. You know which one, which I'll narrate soon. Then Obi-Wan goes to Anakin to see him repairing the ship. Anakin basically, he does not like that. Basically, the Chancellor Palpatine knows that he's ready to take a command of his own, but that Obi-Wan doesn't. And Obi-Wan says that it's not your skills as been questioned, it is your maturity. And then they finally get to Munilist. Anakin is going to battle on top of space. Then Obi-Wan leads the ground forces in lots of gunships. Yeah, and obviously before all of the gunships gets there in the battlefield, one of them goes to the left. It's the one that has the ARC troopers. So while the big battle is ensuing in Munilist on ground and on space, that single gunship is going through the cities of Munilist because it's the ARC troopers that are tasked for specific targets, which later we see in chapter 3, there's the cannon. Then the last gunship gets taken down by one of the droids for rocket launcher. The ARC troopers survive, and they set out to go to accomplish their objective, annihilating any sort of obstacle in their way besides battle droids, A8 tank, and more and more. They managed to explode the cannon, and with that, their mission was a success. So that's chapters 2 and 3. So what do you guys think of those?
Captain Ford was so cool, man.
Yeah, I didn't know who these clones were other than them being Jango Fett clones, but when I saw this episode, I replayed it over and over when I was a kid after I got it on the Volume 1 DVD, because I was like, okay, they're very cool. They're awesome troopers and everything. I really, but there was a problem I had as a kid, and this was the thing that I regret saying now, but every time when they focused on a small group of characters, I actually hated that because I wanted to see all the big stuff going on over there in the background.
Oh, you mean the big ass battle between the big clone army and the Separatist army?
Yes.
I guess it makes sense, though, considering that not only was the series short, basically, well, let's just say it would have been most of the same action, to be honest. Like seeing for 3 minutes the entire... I mean, it would have been brutal, yeah, it would have been awesome. But let's be real, I don't think most people want to see the same battle playing over and over with not much to change.
Yeah, I get that now, but as a kid, I was like I want to see a whole army fight amongst each other. That's how war is in my eye back then, because video games.
I was going to mention that the video games are the ones that accomplish that, Battlefront 2. So
I mean, one thing I find odd, you do know that there are some regular clone troopers among the ARC troopers, right?
Yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, so I was thinking, isn't this job too dangerous for you guys? Just a thought.
It should be, but considering that the leader of the operation is an ARC trooper, I think he knows what they're doing. So there is that. So Darksnovia, Avalon, got any thoughts on chapters 2 and 3?
Oh, yes. So here's the thing. You see, the ARC troopers are sent down to the service of Munilist to take out this one thing to help the Republic get onto Munilist. And that reminded me of how the Empire sent down a strike force in order to take out the shield generator so that they could attack Hoth with Echo Base.
Did you notice that Obi-Wan for some reason calls Fordo a sergeant, right?
I think it's an odd thing, to be honest. Minor. I think that's something we should leave for point 4, as that I think involves more the rest of the EU.
Yeah.
So there is that. Darksnovia, got any thoughts on chapters 2 and 3?
Nothing except that Captain Fordo is a badass and he doesn't have to say a signal word. Like how he gave commands to his troops without actually saying anything. I did through sign language.
Which was awesome. I'll admit, even when I was a kid, I thought that was awesome.
It still is awesome.
It's like, I can't help but have respect for Captain Fordo. I mean, you have to have respect for the guy. I wish he was featured in more Star Wars media. It's such a shame he's only featured in the micro series. I have nothing else to say.
Okay, well, shall we move on to chapter 4? Okay, so chapter 4, the Battle of Mon Calamari, which is the Clone Army and the Mon Calamari versus the Separatists and the Quarren. So, how does the battle go? Well, let's just say it is definitely an action-focused one, and we see Master Kit Fisto being an absolute badass.
Agreed.
I mean, the guy's ripped as hell in this freaking episode.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the scene where Kit Fisto is like taking his robes off and the music comes out, bites his lightsaber with his teeth, and then jumps in the water. I mean,
He grabbed her hands, actually.
Shit.
It's like no wonder people ship Kit Fisto with Air Secura. I mean, look at the guy. Look at those freaking abs.
Well, I remember that talk about how they were possibly in a relationship, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, that is something else. Anyway, so.
But there's one thing I kept liking every time when I was a kid, because at the time I was watching Dragon Ball Z, and then you see Kit Fisto using basically a ball of water with the Force and just blowing stuff up.
There's the anime influence for Clone Wars 2003. So there's that. Anything else to mention on this badass battle?
Let's see. I just like how the Republic ships can turn into naval ships.
Yeah, there's that. Anything else?
About it for me.
So I guess that goes to the next chapter, chapter 5. So now chapter 5 is we continue the battle of Munilist. Anakin is still going in Space Command against the Separatists on space. And then the battle in the land is also going well. The big mortar cannons of the Republic are destroying buildings and other forces. Then the Munilists apparently are, well, let's just say they're kind of scared that the Republic are winning the battle so far. So they send Dirge. Yes, Dirge is introduced in this one.
Yes.
And he takes a big squad of IG droids with speeders and spears, and they get ready to, well, lances actually, and they are basically mowing the shit out of the Republic Army's forces and the cannons. And wow, they almost succeeded if it wasn't for our next chapter, but we'll get into it later. So, thoughts on this one, guys? Chapter 5?
I mean, I don't know about it, but I think it would have been cool for people to actually see a character that first appeared in a comic, right? Before
Republic, I believe. Star Wars Republic, issue 51, I think.
It's always cool to see a character that appeared in a comic that moves in a screen.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Got anything to say, guys?
So when I saw that scene where Dirge and his IG droids are just lancing through everything, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is awesome, but why are they doing medieval stuff in a sci-fi fantasy setting? I get why they want their own tradition, but I was thinking, like as a kid, I thought it was awesome, but when I saw it years later, I was like, okay, this is awesome, but I am still wondering why they're going with old era stuff that doesn't really get brought up ever again.
To be honest, considering how effective it was, I didn't question it.
For me, I just think they did it because it looks cool, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say they were inspired by Samurai Jack's early episodes when they did similar stuff like that.
I mean, come on, we can't deny that wasn't badass. You're doing that, what they did in that episode. I mean, come on.
Definitely not denying that.
Yeah, that was definitely awesome. So, anything else to say on this one before we go to chapter 6?
Let me see. I think I'll go for this one. So,
okay.
I really do like that lance thing that Dirge and those droids were doing. It's like they were almost unstoppable. But also the thing about Dirge himself is that he is the strong, silent type. He looks muscular, but the only sounds that you get from him is just laughter. But that's later on.
Yeah, indeed. So,
that's all.
Okay, now chapters 6 and 7. Since they are the same arc, so we're gonna go with both. Okay, so chapter 6. So we are on the planet Rat Attack, and let's just say there's a big arena with all sorts of mercenaries killing the shit out of each other. Then Dooku arrives with his solar starship, or well, however it's called, and he arrives. He's greeted by somebody that he's basically telling him in some other language that everything's all scheduled. We basically have everything ready for you to choose your assassin, basically. So, and then they're watching the action, and Ventress, she just hooted, arrives here at the same room, gets the other guy that was alongside Dooku away, and Dooku congratulates her stealth skills, but he's not looking for a spy. So Ventress jumps into the arena and beats the shit of every single mercenary inside the arena, which was amazing. Then Dooku congratulates her. Ventress says, "The dark side is strong in me, for I am safe." Dooku just laughed at that, and he was like, "Nah, you're not safe." And then he jumps out of the window, or floats out of the window, and he explains, "You were trapped into the Sith, you fight like a Sith, but all that can be intimidated. You lack a vital thing found in all Sith. Sith have no fear, and I sense much fear in you." And Ventress decides to basically attack him, but Dooku's like, "Force lightning, bitch." And then, well, she wakes up in some sort of room. She sees her lightsabers on the table. She grabs them before Dooku decides to slash her in two, and they do a lightsaber duel. Ventress loses the lightsaber duel, but Dooku has other plans for her. Well, Dooku and Palpatine, Darth Sidious, and Palpatine is introduced to Ventress, and, well, they discuss that Ventress should go and try to kill Anakin Skywalker, and, well, there she goes. And in the end, Sidious only says, "She is merely an instrument to bring forth the eradication of the Jedi." And that's the end of chapters 6 and 7. So, what do you think of that one?
Great episode.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But there are things that to this very day I was like, wait, why don't we ever see that again? Where Dooku levitates and flows down and all that. And I was like, why don't they ever do that again?
They can. Well, they've done it in Battlefront 2, the video game. But I'm pretty sure some can. It's just that, well, I don't know if Dooku is going to do that every single time. He doesn't get his hands dirty too much.
Wouldn't that really help the Jedi especially get through high places? Like, I haven't really, because that would have solved several problems.
They already get into high places, but then again, even force jumping requires an insane amount of force energy, especially from really high places.
But also, the other thing was, when I first saw this as a kid, I was wondering, wait, she's a Sith, or at least claiming to be one. Why does she have Jedi lightsabers? Because the idea of a dark side user at the time having Jedi colored lightsabers was unheard of for me. I was like, they're always red. Why aren't they red?
Technically, Darth Bane did have a purple lightsaber in some pictures.
Yeah, though I wonder that. I just thought it was because, well, it's Samuel L. Jackson, so of course he's going to get special treatment.
Well, no. The one was talking about Darth Bane, aka the one that created the Rule of Two. So.
Oh yeah.
So, Sith are not restricted to always using red. Obviously, they use red most of the time, but no. Well, actually, it's because Ventress was not really a Sith. She was more of a dark Jedi, actually, and she became one of Dooku's dark acolytes after those 2 chapters. So that's how it went.
I do remember. I did learn about that years later, and we did get the answer why she had those 2 lightsabers, which I will talk about that at a later party.
Okay.
But last thing was when I saw this episode, I always replayed it from time to time. Mostly the duel between Dooku and Ventress because it was just that insane. And there was a line of dialogue which, as a kid, I didn't get. But when I look at it years later, I was like, yeah, I kind of agree. Where Ventress says about the Jedi, where she says how they are a feeble light in the dark, corrupt and arrogant, and they must be punished, and how the Jedi will fall, yada, yada, yada. But I was like, wait, the Jedi corrupt and arrogant? I can't imagine that. But now years later, it's like, oh, yeah, you kind of have a point.
Well, first of all, that's the mentality of the Sith, or should I say Dark Jedi, that's one. Two, in some ways, I guess she's correct, but not really corrupt, more like arrogant. That much definitely.
I mean, if you go by Ventress's backstory, that is, but that's EU stuff.
Yeah, we'll get into that much later. So, Avalon, Darksnovia, thoughts on chapters 6 and 7?
I thought it was a great introduction of Asajj Ventress, and it made Dooku out to be a legitimate threat and not a joke like he would later become. Like I was about to say a few years after this series aired, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, Avalon.
Oh yes, let's see here. So the thing is, Genndy Tartakovsky was very accurate with the gladiator scene because, like, I'm back in ancient Rome. Of course, there were the gladiators. What else is there? Let me see. Oh yes, the corrupt and arrogant part. You see, there was the connection. Arrogant. The thing is how Obi-Wan episode 2 says that Anakin's skills have made him, arrogant. And the thing is, Yoda said that, yes, a trait more and more common, especially among the older Jedi. So therefore, Ventress was definitely right about the arrogant part, but the corrupt, I really don't think she was right about that. And that's all I have to say about this particular chapter.
When we get to part 4 in this video, I'll probably explain why I say corrupt is in a part of agreement.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that. So, anyway, chapter 6, 7 done. Now we go to chapters 8 and 9. So chapter 8 begins with, Dirge and his squad of IG droids continue to mow the shit out of the canyons. And, one of the troops finally warns Obi-Wan, General Kenobi, our cannons are being destroyed. And now Obi-Wan, mount up. And they're going forth with their own speeders and their own spears as well, ready to duke it out. Definitely was a kind of an intense battle, and Obi-Wan was facing Dirge alone, and Obi-Wan it seemed equally until you notice that Dirge cannot really be stabbed. So there's that, and instead Obi-Wan had to deflect all sorts of attacks from Dirge, and in the end having to slice his arm and torso in order to even beat him. And once Obi-Wan defeats him, he goes to the Tower of the Months, the headquarters. Dirge unfortunately regenerates himself and also heads over there. Obi-Wan gets there with the ARC troopers, they reunite, and they storm the freaking tower, and they destroy every single opposition, including some unshielded droidekas. And so they manage to take control of the tower until Dirge comes in, and they shoot him down, and Dirge definitely went down, even getting a rocket launcher on his face. And, it seems he was defeated, but nope. Turns out he mutated into some sort of big-ass, gooey, gum-like being that wanted to basically, besides punch Obi-Wan and all the others, he was definitely some sort of nightmare incarnate. He even managed to subdue Obi-Wan and not eat him, but more like immobilize him inside his body. So then Captain Fordo uses some sort of thing he attaches in the head of Dirge and sends some sort of big shock. And after that, Obi-Wan uses the Force to basically force repulse the entire body, and he manages to get out of it. And so, he created a big mess, by the way. And, they find one of the months in there, basically being a total coward below the table that was destroyed. And the months were forced to surrender. And Obi-Wan grabs the helmet and he just stares at it in front. And that's how chapters 8 and 9 go. So, what do you guys think of this one?
Okay, I love the episode. I love those episodes. I did love them. Man, that was an insane stuff to see Dirge just take on a Jedi, no force powers. That was to me unheard of. We have seen people fight Jedi from without force powers, but when I see Jango Fett, it's mostly at a distance and with projectile weapons. Whereas Dirge, I'm gonna come up close and personal.
Yeah, but then again, Dirge knows that he cannot be killed by traditional means. That's why.
Yeah, but I didn't know that until after he was defeated the first time. And then coming back and then being blown apart beat by beat, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure blowing him up is only going to serve to piss him the hell off even more. And when I look back on Dirge, I was thinking, like, considering all that armor and all those that worm-like thing in him, I was thinking to myself, it reminds me of the hunters from Halo, because they're all just basically giant worms inhabited in one armor piece.
It could be, yeah, except that the hunters are a ton of little beings connected into one, whereas Dirge is just a big entire gum-like being, actually. So
yeah, and there was one thing I noticed at the ending of the episode, at the final episode, where Obi-Wan picks up the helmet. You see the slime moving away, and I was like, so is he still alive? Is he returning?
And, of course, as we later know, he did survive that, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So.
EU material.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Darksnovia, Avalon, thoughts on chapters 8 and 9?
I don't have much thoughts, to be honest.
Oh, really? Okay.
Everyone already gave their thoughts on it. I don't want to repeat what everyone else said.
Okay. Avalon, what do you think of chapters 8 and 9?
I really liked these two chapters. It's like, let me see. Yeah, so Dirge, like I'm seeing, is very hard to beat. Obviously, it's like Obi-Wan, like eventually does beat him, and sometimes in order to destroy something, you don't destroy it from without; you have to destroy it from within. And also in this, one of the two episodes, Obi-Wan speaks of unconditional surrender. And of course, yes, you're a leader, like you're a general of an army. Of course, you're going to seek the unconditional surrender, like especially the unconditional type of the enemy. And so, yeah, and so then. Well, I'm not really sure what else to say. It's like, I think that's good enough.
Okay. Well, now we go to chapters 10 and 11. So, chapter 10, now we're seeing how the space battle on Mutalised is going. So, now we're going to see Anakin in action in his starfighter. And, well, he and the clones are kicking the shit out of the Separatists. Seriously, Anakin is such a damn good, like, starfighter. So, the battle was pretty much more than one. So, but then one fighter comes in and destroys most of Anakin's squadron, and that rogue fighter is going to fight Anakin on a one-on-one, and they are duking it out in space, and turns out both are pretty skilled, like pretty evenly skilled. So, and then, well, let's just say the enemy ship then decides to flee into the surface of Mutalised. Anakin pursues, and he's trying to blow up the ship, but turns out that it's pretty hard to do, and Obi-Wan sees them flying, and he contacts Anakin, telling him to stop following the ship. Yeah, it's an order, don't follow the ship, it's probably baiting you, but Anakin is like, no, this is no droid pilot, and the Force is strong with him, I can't let him get away. And Anakin in the end decides to cut his transmission with Obi-Wan, and he basically goes to pursue the fighter. And Obi-Wan, with the transmission broken, he basically commands his clones, you have the coordinates? Yes or no? Take a squad and follow him. And in the end, well, the ship goes, and Obi-Wan says, I've got a bad feeling about this. And that's the end of chapters 10 and 11. So
the most iconic line in all of Star Wars history.
Of course. Yep. So thoughts on chapters 10 and 11?
Yeah, there was this really funny scene, like when Anakin and Ventress was appearing, like, what was that? I don't know, General. That's Anakin. Yes, General.
Yeah.
I mean, the clone was funny as hell. Like, was he intentionally doing that?
I think so. So there is that.
Yeah,
so.
There is one detail I notice every time when I see the scene where Anakin's is trying to get into the facility and the missiles are following him. When he passes one of the droids just looks like it's spazzing out and realizes, wait, what is that? And then boom, all of a sudden the explosions hit.
Yeah. I mean, I would also be dumbfounded at seeing that. So
I was thinking to myself when I saw that, wait, but that happened at the Trade Federation incident on Naboo. Shouldn't the droids have like been remembering that part? They're like,
yeah, but this is a different ship.
Was in the ship once, so.
Yeah, but this is a different ship, and
yeah,
so,
but like they would think that like someone would assume like wouldn't this be like in their memory banks to remember? Oh, there was that one person that got through and got inside our ship.
Well, to be fair, that was not only 10 years ago, but also the droids that were there were probably destroyed. Hell, not even the main command, the Trade Federation ship, even knew how the hell the generator even was destroyed. So probably nobody knew but the Republic.
But I always thought that was funny to me, seeing that droid just spaz out like, what?
Yeah.
Like
And then we get Ventress just destroying everything, and then you got Obi-Wan trying to reprimand Anakin at the same time while trying to tell him to stop, but it's Anakin, he's not going to listen to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's like doing the same thing twice and expecting different results. Like, of course it doesn't work.
Well, there's that. Anyway, Doan, Darksnovia, Avalon, thoughts on chapters 10 and 11?
Me? I'll agree that Anakin Skywalker was a fucking badass in these chapters.
Oh, yeah. Of course he was. There's a reason why he was a damn good starfighter pilot.
I mean, seriously, the way he destroyed, like, he used his own men's missiles to destroy that station. And at the end, Dod's Ventress appears out of nowhere and freaking destroys like a good chunk of his squadron, and Anakin goes after her. I mean, it's one of the most badass freaking dogfights in Star Wars. It's a shame that we haven't seen that many even come close to this particular one.
Yeah, sadly. So there is that. Avalon, got anything to say? Thoughts?
Let me see. Okay. So Anakin, he had excellent timing with the clone missiles because you see the clone pilots, they don't see any enemies there, but Anakin is timing it perfectly about how like that whole squadron is chasing him, and then he tells them to fire the missiles, and then they fire them, and then a whole squadron of droid starfighters is destroyed, and that was excellent. Like, it was great timing on Anakin's part.
Yeah.
And so let's see here. Also, Anakin does the insubordination, obviously, of leaving the space command and going after Ventress' ship. And of course, Obi-Wan says the ship is being Anakin. And of course, like, you're not supposed to fall for the enemy's bait, of course. And what's more is that, let's see here, Anakin, he turns off his ship's comm. It's like the thing is, the cutting off of communication like puts Anakin in more danger because, like, when Ventress gets Anakin all alone, so of course it's like it's going to be easier to go after Anakin because it's one-on-one. It's the way Ventress wants it, I think. But also the thing is how he cuts off Obi-Wan. Like, he says, "Master, you're breaking up," and then he clicks on the ship's comm, and Obi-Wan's like, "Don't you turn off the comm? Don't you turn off the comm?" It's like the thing is, there's thing. It proves Obi-Wan right earlier in this series about how Anakin is lacking maturity, like, because Anakin has great skills, like, but his maturity, like with him not listening with Obi-Wan, it's like there was a good chance that Anakin could have died on Yavin 4. Of course, he has to live for the rest of the saga, of course. But you get my
Yavin 4 later.
Yes. Still, the ship's comm. It's like, so therefore, Anakin, like what Anakin did with shutting off the ship's comm, it was very unprofessional. And so, and also I've got a bad feeling about this. Yes, I can't lie on the Star Wars movies, and so I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, indeed. So, anything else to say?
No.
Okay, well, now we go to chapters 12 and 13. This is the Battle of Dantooine with Mace Windu and the Clone Army against the Separatists. And the beginning of it, we see a kid running to the field, basically to one of the cliffs, and he sees the entire battle in action, which is definitely something. And we see a lat gunship getting blasted. And the battle we see there is fierce. Like, both armies are going at it hard. And obviously the only one that was holding out the best was Mace Windu himself, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, that battle was intense. And it was going really, really intense until the Separatist droids, for some reason, they decided to hold fire. And the clones of Windu are like, what is going on here? And then we see this huge-ass ship get in there in the battle in the middle. He gets in the middle, stops, and it decides to bring this huge ass like piston or whatever thing to slam into the ground and create a huge sandhill to the point in which it's like so big, it's almost like a crater. Like, it's so damn big. Like, holy shit. And then Mace Windu was caught in the middle of it, but managed to get away from it because force jump. And then the clones see that the ship is going to do it again, so they shoot at it, but useless. It just shoots anyway. And Windu is left alone against the entire droid armies with no lightsaber. He's surrounded by droids. And then, well, when it seems that all is lost, Mace Windu decides to do a force repulse And then he uses force speed as well as the rest of his force abilities to basically punch the shit out of the battle droids with his own hands, which is insane. And he does it for a good amount of while the big ass ship is still doing the big ass sandhills. So yeah, and that still goes on until the ship decides to recharge for a big ass sandhill. And while Mace Windu is still getting the hang of destroying the separatists, let's just say by the time the ship decides to make one final sandhill, Windu sees his lightsaber, he gets it, and decides, yeah, it's time to destroy that ship. So he deflects some blaster bolts, and then he uses one of the sandhills that the ship did to jump into the ship. He digs a hole into it, destroys all the droids inside it and the controls of the ship, and the ship, kaboom. And then that explosion made Windu jump all the way to the cliff in which the little kid was there. And the kid is like, okay, get here some water. Windu drinks it, and he gives it back. And then he jumps down toward the remains of the battle war. I guess to supervise if there's any survivors or anything. And that's chapter 12 and 13. So, what do you guys think?
Okay, so I was loving these episodes. This was before I really hated Mace Windu for different reasons, but this is when I still thought Mace Windu was just this cool, awesome Jedi. But to see him beat the droids up with his fists, I was like, okay, that is supremely badass.
Oh, yeah.
So, looking back on it, I am left wondering one thing, though. Okay, so let's see if I get this straight. Using a gun, uncivilized. Beating the living shit out of somebody? Oh, that's perfectly all right.
I watched a meme when someone added the sound effects from Hop to the New Ken. When Mace Windu was punching the droids. Is anyone familiar with Fist of the North Star?
Yeah, I never watched it, but I do know about it.
I heard of it.
Okay, if you're familiar with the way Kenshiro screams that he does when he punches his enemies, that's easily take that with this episode. I mean, I have to be honest, this episode, is along with the Grievous ones, is my favorite episode of the series.
Oh, damn.
This episode, it's made me respect Mace Windu more, considering this guy is a fucking beast in terms of how powerful he is.
Oh yes.
Holy shit. I mean, it was, when I was a kid, I was like, wait, Mace Windu is as strong as Kid Shiro and Goku?
Wow.
That's what I thought as a kid. I was just I just couldn't help have a sense of awe. I could watch this scene all day as a kid and I wouldn't get bored with it. It was just that fucking badass.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I guess that explains why Mace Windu is the second biggest Jedi Master of Coruscant at the time, as well as, let's just say capable of going against Palpatine in episode 3. So, there's that. Avalon, got any thoughts on these 2 chapters?
Oh yes, it's the action on Mace Windu's part was awesome. It's he took on all those droids all by himself. And again, it's yes, go inside the beast in order to destroy it instead of trying to destroy it from without. It's whoa. Of course, I couldn't help be reminded of the Jawa Sandcrawlers and the World Devastators with that big, humongous piston driving device into the ground on Dantooine.
Yeah, indeed.
That's it, really. Except for the part I really loved. I also loved Mace Windu's action with his purple lightsaber, and also how the little kid looked up to him. Great.
Oh yeah, it was really interesting how that the war was observed from this random kid's perspective.
This may just be my interpreted thought, but when I saw the kid looking and watching the battle, it reminded me when I researched about the U.S. Civil War and all that, it was oh wait, wasn't it said during the Civil War that people would get on picnics and just watch the battles as people fight each other?
Wow. That one. Maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe. Though, I don't know about that. The kid didn't look happy seeing the battle. But anyway, so I guess moving on to chapters 14, 15, and 16, because they're basically the same place. So, okay, 14, we see in the Temple of Ilum, Luminara Unduli and Barriss Offee are in there. Luminara is training Barriss to build her lightsaber. She manages to do it, but then the droids decide to blow the shit out of the temple. And Luminara and Barriss, they put up a damn good fight against these droids, showing all sorts of displays of force powers and abilities and stuff. However, they were unsuccessful because the droids had managed to put time bombs in the ceiling, and unfortunately, they had to use a last-ditch effort with the Force to basically meditate to make sure the rocks wouldn't crush him in the top, and also to send a distress call, a Force distress call to Yoda. And Yoda receives it, and Yoda tells Padme, because he's with Padme in some sort of diplomatic mission in her ship. So he tells Padme, we need to go to Ilum now. Well, that's not how he said it, but yeah. So apparently Captain Typho was like, no, we have a more important mission. And Yoda is like, I'm going to use mind trick on you, and I'm going to make Padme agree with me. And that happens, and they go to Ilum. Yoda decides to go alone with no support. So Padme, Typho, and the others, they stay behind. He arrives outside the temple, and he was greeted with all the droids that survived the explosion of the temple, and he managed to destroy them all by himself. And then Yoda arrives at the temple. He uses the Force to lift the rubble. And while he's doing that, Padme is searching for Yoda using binoculars. She was unable to find him and decides to go find Master Yoda with 3PO and R2D to accompany her. So they go and search him, and apparently R2D2, with his sensors, he manages to find one of the droids, found him, and they, basically confront them. However, the droids, but I forgot to mention, the droids, they have a sort of invisible camouflage. So that's why they're not too easy to find. So Padme uses all sort of methods to attack them, including getting C-3PO to pick her coat, which was something. And they destroy the 3 droids. Then they manage to find Yoda with Luminara and Barris. And fortunately, Yoda was devastated at the destruction of the temple, and he was like questioning who did it. R2D2 scans the remains of one of the droids and finds out that it was Dooku who ordered the destruction of the temple of Ilum. And Yoda definitely was not happy. And that's the end of chapters 14, 15, and 16. Thoughts on this one?
Great episode.
Every time when I saw Yoda use the Force in the episode, it always looked like, wait, is it hurting him? I don't know if that happens.
I mean, it could be tiring him. I don't think hurting him. Maybe tire him, considering he's 900 years old.
Yeah, I remember that. And, oh god, the synchronicity with Barris and Luminara was just awesome. And then when I rewatched the episode a few days ago, I was like, oh, don't worry. We can't wait for them to see them really screw with Barisafi. Well, that's a different subject.
TCW. Oh, God. Anyways, so Darksnovia, Avalon, thoughts on these 3 chapters?
Oh, yeah. Let me see here. So, yes, this was a great episode. And so the thing is how... Yes, Yoda using the Jedi mind trick. It's a usual Jedi trick. Yeah, and so Yoda wants to go off alone. Padme wants to help him, and then she takes the initiative, and then she takes out a lot of those droids on her own. And also Ilum, it has a great snowy atmosphere, both in terms of the snowy atmosphere and in terms of the temple with all the crystals, and how. Let me see here. Also, let me see. Yoda, it's he's saddened by the near destruction of the Jedi Temple on Ilum, and also that his location has been revealed as well, because the thing is, Jedi go to train there. They go to construct their lightsabers there. And also the thing is how Dooku, it's with him ordering the destruction of the Jedi Temple, it indicates how deep in the dark side he has become. He's destroying all the things that were once sacred to him. It's and also sacred to the Jedi. And so here's the thing, so also with the Luminara and Barisafi, it's so they held their own against the droids for as long as they could. And so then the rocks came down upon them, and then Yoda was able to get them out for as long as they were able to hold out. And then that was the end of it. So I'll stop there.
I found it interesting that when the cave collapsed, the bunch of crystals came out of there also. I could see the nice detail.
Yeah, indeed. Darksnovia, what do you think of these 3 chapters?
Oh, they're all right. I'm more interested in what's going on with Anakin, honestly, than what's going on here. That's just my opinion.
Okay, fair enough.
There's one more detail I wanted to add. Here's the thing that did bug me at the end when it's revealed Dooku gave the order. I was thinking to myself, is that really surprising? I mean, Dooku was the former Jedi. You brought it up. Would it not be surprising if the former Jedi, he would probably do this, so we can go with this logic?
Yeah, but as Avalon said, it basically shows that he truly went to the dark side, because there were a time the Jedi did when they basically saw somebody going to the dark side, they thought they thought maybe they had some good inside them. Obviously, well, that's no longer the case post episode 3. So there's that.
Oh, another one detail I could see is that Luminara and Barris both were not really fighting in an aggressive style when going against the droid, and you could also see them fighting in the perfect, literal same style. Just look at it, not a slight difference in their movements when they're using the lightsaber.
Yeah, makes sense. Like master, like apprentice. So, yeah, there is that. Well, speaking of Anakin, Darksnovia, chapters 17, 18, and 19. Yavin 4. Okay, so Anakin follows Ventress to Yavin 4. He lands and investigates the forest by himself. And once he goes for a minute to investigate, he hears a ship coming in, and turns out it's a ship of the clones. That they followed Anakin because Obi-Wan ordered them. And so Anakin decided, okay, have some men protect the ships. The rest will separate and clear out and investigate the jungle. And everyone's investigating the jungle. They're sweeping it out. And, well, they're looking, but apparently something is taking out the clone troopers individually, one by one, which is weird. And then until the end, one of the clone troopers was dragged all the way into the ship, and apparently the clone ship exploded, and Anakin's starfighter also exploded, also destroying R4. So Anakin is left alone to face Ventress by himself. So Anakin versus Sarge Ventress lightsaber duel begin, and they are duking it out with all sorts of attacks and stuff, like holy shit, even throwing locks at their faces, using binds to escalate, like holy shit, it was like an intense battle. Then they managed to get to the temples of Yavin 4, and apparently Ventress managed to damage Anakin to the point that his robes were getting a bit scarred. So, and then Anakin continues to duke it out against Ventress until he forces her to flee inside the temple. He looks for her. He manages to find her, so they're still duking it out, even throwing water at their faces and pillars, and they're the battle is just brutal, and both of them end up getting their clothes almost scarred. And then they get into the top of the temple, and they're continuing to duke it out until Anakin lost his lightsaber because Ventress managed to basically force him to drop it, and it went going all the way down the temple. So Anakin had no choice but to use the Force to get one of the lightsabers out of Ventress. And with that, he lashes out in anger, and it's striking at her hard to the point in which she is trying to destroy the floor in which they were standing on top of the cliff in the Masasi temple. Once Anakin basically forces Ventress to go down the cliff because she basically destroyed the floor, so she went down. Anakin deactivates the red lightsaber, throws it to the cliff to Ventress, and he leaves. And that's the end of those 3 chapters. So, yeah. What do you guys think of these 3?
It was really interesting seeing them fight. This 2D style of lightsaber fight worked really well, surprisingly, for such an intense action. And also, it was very interesting to hear Duel of the Fates when Anakin was grabbing Ventress's arms and trying to take one of the lightsabers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and the other part where you can see the details when the rains being the lightsabers, steam, the sizzling sounds, and man, those were so cool to look at.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, I really did like the attention to detail they did with this duel. Every time when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is when the people were like, okay, this is the episode we've been waiting for, everyone. Let's get right into it. Throw everything we can in it. We wouldn't get, but there's only a select few episodes that you could feel like the creators were like, okay, this is the episode we've been waiting for. Let's go all out with it.
Yeah, we got another one. But
yeah, we'll get into it. But first, okay, Avalon, Darksnovia, thoughts on chapters 17 to 19?
Okay. Epic episode arc. It's of Anakin versus Ventress. It was really, really epic. Let me see here. So the thing is, we have to pay very close attention to how the fight started. So Ventress ignited her lightsabers before Anakin ignited his. As Master Yoda said, Ajay uses his powers for knowledge and defense, never attack. And the thing is, Ventress was the one picking the fight because she ignited her sabers first. Also, she does like a classic military maxim, divide and conquer. The clone troopers disperse themselves throughout the jungle. She uses her force powers to take each and everyone out one by one. You could say it's a bit like a horror movie, and then it's just her and Anakin. And so therefore, it was very smart of her to destroy the methods of transportation, the big humongous clone ship, and also Anakin's starfighter, and therefore she basically almost traps Anakin on Yavin Force that no one can help him. And so therefore it's you see, you have to isolate your opponent alone so that you can beat them. It's it makes you feel more confident and them less confident. Also, it's the tearing of the clothes of Anakin and Ventress indicates how severe this lightsaber fight is. And also, Anakin wields a red lightsaber for the first time with Ventress' saber, and then he taps into the dark side. So here's the thing. If he was using ordinary human strength and he was hitting against Ventress, the thing is that cliffside would have taken a lot longer to fall, or it wouldn't have fallen at all. So therefore, he's using the Force to amplify his strength, and therefore hitting Ventress down and down and down, causing cracks in the cliffside, and then she falls down. And so therefore, yes, also, Anakin feels very angry, and so therefore, yes, anger, fear, aggression, the dark side of the Force are they, as said by Yoda, and therefore, Anakin, he taps into the dark side to defeat Ventress, and I'm thinking that Sidious wanted Ventress to fight Anakin so that Anakin would have to tap into the dark side and draw him closer to the dark side in order to defeat Ventress, and taking him even further into the dark side. And so I'm stopping there.
Yeah. Anyway, Darksnovia, you want to talk about Anakin? Here you go.
Oh, I think this to me is best lightsaber duel on screen, in my opinion. Anakin versus Asajj Ventress on Yavin. Love the symbolism they did for Anakin becoming Darth Vader when they had the water scene in the cave where you had the water drop down, and it sounded just like the Darth Vader breathing sound that he makes in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I loved at the end of the episode, the imagery just showed how angry Anakin was when he was fighting Asajj Ventress. He had a red moon shining on Anakin as he was striking Ventress in anger. And then one of the rare, we never had a lightsaber duel like this really in Star Wars until that one movie that shall not be named. We actually had a lightsaber duel in the rain.
Yeah, indeed.
And it was well animated. It's not really appreciated these days, the lightsaber duel between Anakin and Asajj Ventress.
Especially by a certain someone that claims that lightsaber duels with no dialogue are bad. You know what I'm talking about.
Not to mention, this duel to me shows that you don't have to have dialogue to have a great lightsaber duel. I don't have much to say without repeating myself.
Oh yeah, there was this one funny scene, I thought it funny at least, where Asajj Ventress was all killing the clones, and Anakin's saying nothing, but when his droid was exploding, it was something's wrong. I was like, dude, don't you realize all the people dying around you? Now you realize something's wrong?
Yeah, I remember that. After all the clones were viciously slaughtered, some getting cartoonishly Tom and Jerry affected in comedic ways, and Anakin just says something's wrong. And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. This is like Mace Windu when he says, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. I'm like, granted, there's been people that have been trying to kill us throughout this entire war, but I just now sense there's a plot, even though I'm probably 3 years late.
Well, okay, to be fair, it was very difficult to even think that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, so there's that.
I know that, but with Dooku running around, you would think, wait, wouldn't he be the one that's trying to destroy us?
But Dooku was dead at the time he said that, remember?
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about when he's leading, there's this war effort, and they're hunting the Jedi and all that nonsense, and I was like, wouldn't that have been obvious from the start of this war?
It's not as clear as some OT fanboys would like it to be. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, it does seem odd that Anakin doesn't really pay attention, though I think it's because he's not really close to the clone troopers, and he probably is so fixated on fighting Ventress to the point in which he really didn't pay too much attention until one of the clone troopers actually shouted very close to him. So that's probably why.
Probably, but I was like, but if he's so fixated on Ventress, wouldn't he be able to sense, the obvious force ability she's using to kill and blow stuff up?
Thing is, Ventress is, we saw what she did in Chapter 6 and 7. She's ridiculously fast in taking out opponents. So it'll be hard to pinpoint her unless she was directly facing Anakin. So,
all right.
There is that. So anything else to say on this one?
Not much
No,
more.
good.
Okay, we go to chapters 20 and 21. I know that 20 is the end of volume 1, but considering they're the same story arc, we'll go 20 and 21. Anyway, so, okay, chapter 20. So, we see the Battle of Munich still going with another Jedi going against the droids. He was leading the clone forces. So basically, it was like the end of the Munilist battle, because by the time Obi-Wan had already made the Mon surrender, they deactivated the droids, so the battle was completely won. Obi-Wan was supervising his forces, making sure that everything was all right. They actually won. And then Ventress's ship was approaching Munilist, which is interesting. And Obi-Wan and the clones wanted to shoot at the ship, by the way, but Obi-Wan said, "Hold your fire, Captain." And they let it land, and it was Anakin piloting it. So Anakin said, yeah, Obi-Wan was right. It was a trap. But he emerged victorious. But Obi-Wan said, like, you shouldn't really have fought that. You should follow my orders, because if not, there will be then the con transmission blips, and turns out the Master Barak, he is getting attacked in the planet Hypori by separatists. He died at the end when transmission was cut, and the droids were blasting the shit out of one of the Clamator ships that was downed. And well, once they're almost going to destroy it, a metal hand rises and says, "Hold." And that is our first glimpse of you know who. So once that happens, we see Jedi basically seeing why the droids stopped. They regroup together, they plan their strategy, but apparently somebody, the droid general, was saying that he will give the Jedi a honorable death. Of course, he said that his name is General Grievous. So, and then apparently some sort of noise happens, and the Jedi getting desperate. Even Shagai is getting desperate. So there's... And Shagai gets so desperate that he decides to man up and go directly and face Grievous. But Grievous is like... he just like stomps the shit out of Shagai, and he's getting ready to fight all the rest of the Jedi. And, well, the Jedi had to retreat, form a circle close to them, but Grievous is on top of them in the ceiling. He's getting his lightsabers ready, and he detaches from the ceiling, and the battle begins. And man, that battle is intense. He's taking on all 5 Jedi, which is intense. So yeah, the battle is brutal, it's intense, and the Jedi are unable to even do a scratch on Grievous. They can't do anything. He's really that strong. And, well, the only one standing is Ki-Adi-Mundi. And, well, he's facing Grievous. At the end of chapter 20, Yoda is seeing on Coruscant some sort of storm that's there, and he says the dark side of the Force seems like getting stronger. Then chapter 21 comes in, and Captain Fordo with his other ARC troopers are going in a custom-painted Latgan ship, and they're going straight into that down assault Clamator ship to basically go and rescue the Jedi. And, well, they managed to get in. So, the ARC troopers managed to get into the ship, and they find Ki-Adi-Mundi fighting Grievous. He's almost gonna die until the ARC troopers arrive and shoot at General Grievous. The ARC troopers were definitely shooting all their guns at Grievous. And Grievous did took some troopers out to the point at which Fordo had to ask for backup from the Lat gunship, and Grievous had to flee from the Lat gunship shooting. Ki-Adi wanted to pursue, but unable to pursue because they needed to get Aayla Secura and Shakti out of there. And they managed to get them out of there. Grievous sees the ship fleeing, and then we get some sort of vision of Anakin being with Qui-Gon in some swampy planet, similar to Dagobah, in which Anakin has to go inside, and that it is part of his training. It seems like Yoda was meditating about that at the time. And so then the Jedi Council discussing they need more Jedi Knights because of what happened with General Grievous, in Hypori. So Obi-Wan asks for Anakin to get promoted. Jedi Council is a little hesitant, but Yoda decides we need to knight him. There's no choice. Anakin is walking around in the streets of Coruscant, and he sees some hooded figure kind of following him. And he manages to grab the hooded figure into some sort of alley. Turns out it was Padme, and, well, they get a quick, loving moment, I guess. Then it's interrupted by Tripio, and they grab Tripio to make sure he doesn't make any more noise. They see the Tripio, now he's a gold plating. And then Anakin gets a transmission from Obi-Wan to get to the Jedi Temple. immediately. So Anakin goes to the Jedi Temple. He arrives, but late. Obi-Wan scolds him. Then let's just say that Anakin goes into the Jedi Council chamber, and there it's dark. But we see lightsabers ready, and that's where he gets knighted as a Jedi Knight. So with his new Jedi Knight status, he gets ready to leave Coruscant, not before getting a small souvenir from Padme through R2-D2. So they managed to go, and that's the end of chapter 21. So, thoughts on chapters 20 and 21, guys?
Yeah, my thing is like, this is the first appearance of General Grievous. And let me tell you, I cannot express in human words how badass General Grievous was.
Yes.
Yeah, I recall seeing this. I was thinking like, oh, is this gonna be like a horror movie because of the way it was being shown? And we see Grievous just tear the Jedi a new one. Like, two of them are on the council, and they got their asses handed to them.
Yeah, and another part I noticed, the part where Anakin and Padme was in the alley, and they're talking about why our love should be hidden public. And Padme's saying, like, things will be better after the war. Of course, things are not going to be better after it's going to be worse.
Obviously.
And Padme's going to die. So you can see, I mean, it's a really sad scene. Nothing's going to be better. And everyone either dies or, you know, the Empire. But that's a different story.
Yeah. So
there is one detail I did like when I rewatched the duel. I didn't notice this when I was a kid because I was a kid, but when I watched it years later, I saw this particular moment. So when Grievous is battling the clones, one of the clones, after he loses one of his main rifles, goes ahead and tries to pull out one of the pistol-based weapons and gets cut down.
Oh, interesting. Never noticed that.
Yeah, like he was like, okay, I'm gonna die, but at least I'm gonna try shooting him in the face first.
That's badass. So there's that.
And I did like the whole dragon painted vibe I got from the ARC Trooper ship. And I was thinking to myself, okay, why don't we see more of that?
I think it's because it's the ARC Troopers. So
yeah, when I look back on that duel between Grievous and the Jedi, I would always play that on loop when I was a kid. I would record the moment on the PlayStation 2 and loop it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but when I rewatched it, like I said, I did see that minor detail where a clone loses his rifle blaster and tries to pull out a miniature one.
Interesting. So yeah, Darksnovia, Avalon, thoughts on chapters 20 and 21?
Okay, let's see here now. It's like, yes. So, also, it's like, let me see, like, Ki-Adi-Mundi is with the other Jedi, like, in the ruins of that one ship. It's like, he says, our predicament is dire, but do not despair. And so the thing is, the Jedi, one of the important things about the Jedi is that they give hope to other people, and of course, they give hope to themselves. And despair is obviously the opposite of hope. And so also, Shaggy says, it's all around us, referring to the sound of General Grievous approaching. And so the thing is, there's a trick, it's like in horror. It's like about how like you hear something coming for you. It's like, but you don't know where it's coming from. It seems to be coming from everywhere. And the thing is, terror involves what you see. Horror involves what you don't see, because that was an old trick with horror. And the thing is how like how one of the Jedi says in the Clone Wars series, how I don't see anything, about how they hear Grievous approaching, but they don't know from where he's coming from. And then there's the part about how like yes, Qui-Gon tells Anakin to go into the magic tree cave. It's like, regardless of what planet it's on. And the thing is, it's similar to how Yoda tells Luke to go into the tree cave. It's like father, like son again. And also, Mace Windu says, politicians have no voice in Jedi matters. The thing is, apparently the Chancellor is trying to butt in. It's like, even now at this point, even before episode 3 starts. And so also, Anakin like goes through all these trials, like you see. Yeah, Anakin doesn't want to hide his love. The thing is, a great thing about husbands, wives, and boyfriends and girlfriends is that they shouldn't be ashamed of one another. It's like they want to show their love publicly, which is very great. It shows Anakin's not ashamed of her, and that's good. And then also there's this part at the Jedi Temple where Anakin and Obi-Wan are talking, and the thing is, Anakin lashes out at Obi-Wan and says, as far as your wisdom goes, you're no Qui-Gon Jinn. Again, this obviously shows Anakin's frustration about how he would have liked it if it were Qui-Gon who were to train him instead of Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan was more of a stickler for the rules, but Qui-Gon was more easygoing. It's like, and that really would have helped him. And then also, Obi-Wan said, "It's time we became brothers." And Anakin episode 2 says, "He's like a father to me." So relationship of father and son, which is of different, unequal standing. It's time we became brothers. That's equal standing. Jedi Knights, that's good. Like brothers in arms, brothers for life. And so, let me see here. Yeah, Anakin gives Padme like the Padawan braid. It's like just like he gave her the Japor snippet necklace. I suppose that's romantic as well, about how he gave the Padawan braid. And so then I think I'll stop it right there.
So, Darksnovia?
I have nothing really to say, to be honest. Everyone already said what I would have said.
Nothing on General Grievous idling Jedi? Damn.
Not really. I mean, it'd be pretty repetitive.
Okay. Well,
there is one more thing I wanted to add. And this was just hilarious to me when I look back on it. I was like when you have the council meeting going on, I was thinking to myself, wait, isn't it always Yoda and Mace Windu talking? Everyone else is just the background, but with Obi-Wan in, it's now the three of them. And now you got the other members speaking. I was like, okay, finally, they actually have a voice.
well, to be fair, in episode 1, Ki-Adi-Mundi did say a few words at one point.
Yeah, but I thought like when they tried to actually elect a decision, where it just sounded like Yoda and Mace Windu made all the decisions and everyone else was just there.
Well, to be fair, even in this, Yoda was a final vote on knighting Anakin, so there's that. Yeah,
All right.
so anyway, so yeah, also, since we mostly talk about General Grievous versus the Jedi, so yeah, so let's just say that, well, the knighting of Anakin, which by the way, almost 3 years after episode 2, no TCW nods there, we'll get into that later. Anyway, so yeah, the knighting was awesome, man. It's interesting when Genndy asked George Lucas behind the scenes if George had any plans on how to make the knighting, and George said, not really, so I guess he did it his own way. So there is that. I guess that's an interesting topic. So anyway, so now we go to chapter 22. Now, since these chapters take longer, it's going to be a little difficult for me to narrate them. So I guess we're going to go with how the arcs are going on. So I'll do my best to summarize basically everything that's happening in this one. So apparently from chapters 22 to 25. So chapter 22, we see Anakin and Obi-Wan finally in action. Anakin is a Jedi Knight, battling several armies and everything. And they are in this, well... in this planet, they have to destroy this city that has a shield in it. So they managed to do it by going below in the underground, and well, they succeed. They managed to destroy the generator powering up the shield, protecting the city. Clone armies go. We see Wookiees in Kashyyyk trying to hunt, but the droid armies arrive to storm Kashyyyk. We see that it's not only the Republic winning battles, but also the Separatists. It's not clear in day who's winning the war, it seems. So we'll get more into detail who was winning it with the multimedia project. Anyway, so when it seems that Anakin and Obi-Wan are done, well, let's just say that they are now getting a new assignment to go to the planet Noban to investigate if General Grievous has been there. And, well, they take a full-on fleet. So they investigate with a launchper squad and, well, let's just say that they engage into some intense local fauna. An insanely huge rhinoceros-type monster attacks them. And the monster manages to destroy every single clone trooper. Only Anakin and Obi-Wan survive. And Anakin manages to kill the beast. And he was proud, but turns out that the beast was going to be slayed by a young warrior who was apparently making some sort of trial or test with, the other natives that he was being accompanied to supervising the test. And, well, that's where that chapter ends. So before we get to the next bigger event, and I guess a continuation of this. So what do you guys think of chapter 22 on what happened?
Chapter 22. The way it started is kind of interesting because it shows various battles Anakin has been doing for the past 6 months, not 3 years. And also, this is the first on-screen appearance of Commander Cody.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And we get to have more tidbits of Kashyyyk appearing. Oh, we got to see Wookiees. Yeah, and Wookiees are always great.
Fun fact, Genndy Tartakovsky and his people were excited for drawing Wookiees. So there's that.
Yeah, and what was it? Isn't there a scene of Anakin and Padme there together?
It's
Yeah.
after Anakin has done some battles. Apparently he gets back to Padme, but he has a scar in his right eye.
Yeah, I mean, that's EU reference we're going to talk later. But
Yeah.
you could also notice that the clones are not wearing the Phase 1 armor anymore. They changed to Phase 2, which you can see that it's turning more into an empire, and the Republic's getting more corrupted.
Well, I guess, but I don't really know if them changing their armor is a sign of corruption, to be honest. I know that the reason why we think that is because they look closer to the Empire stormtroopers, but I think it's more of basically seeing how the clone army was evolving at the time. It could have not been the Empire, but we'll touch into that much later. So
okay, the part where Anakin and Padme were in there together having quote-unquote relationship, it's the time when Luke and Leia were conceived, according to Genndy.
I don't know about that, but
He said that.
I guess. Anyway, so anyway.
There is one thing that everyone neglected to mention.
What is it?
Dooku and Grievous.
Oh yes, they were also training. I forgot.
Yeah, I saw this scene and I still was like, so Dooku can take on Grievous in a fair fight and is using the Force in a more subtle way. But I love how the teaching he does. In fact, I see a lot of people comment like, okay, Dooku may be a bad person, but he's an awesome teacher. Awesome. And there are certain lines he says in there that I think George Lucas looked at and kind of took it to an 11 at that point.
Well, George Lucas was involved in the creation of Clone Wars 2003, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, but I loved how they mentioned how Dooku could easily tell after he takes one of Grievous's lightsabers, like, a new one. And I was like, how do you know that's not? So you know that's a new one, which means you know he's been killing so many Jedi at once.
Obviously.
And how he shows off this collection of stuff around him. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, Dooku apparently is so well known with Grievous that he could tell when Grievous has a new lightsaber just by holding it.
Well, yeah. I mean, he trains Grievous. He sees
and then you get Palpatine announcing that it's time for our final operation.
Oh, yes, which we'll get soon.
Yes, I think this was like the moment Genndy was like, oh, we're going to do it. We're actually going to do it.
Wait. There's this interesting part where Anakin was like eating bugs and Obi-Wan is like, how do you eat that? And Anakin's being some kind of an asshole and saying, oh, Master, you told me to consume the living force. I was like, really, Anakin? Really?
No, well, he said, well, not consume. He said to feed off from the living force. Which, I mean, oh God, imagine if Padme knew about that one.
Yeah, that would probably be the most awkward conversation. And then you gotta realize this. Oh wait, like I could imagine Obi-Wan say something like that, and now it's like Obi-Wan didn't want to hear he was on the receiving end of his own kind of curt line.
I mean, how do you know if there's an extra scene in A New Hope? Like, what was my father like? Oh, he was a guy who ate bugs because he had ran out of food to eat.
Well, obviously that didn't happen for obvious reasons, but it is a funny one.
But I was like when Obi-Wan had this annoyed look on his face, I was thinking to myself, is he annoyed that Anakin is eating the bugs, or is he annoyed that Anakin took his lessons and threw it right back in his face, like a callback episode 1 when Obi-Wan refers to him as commander and whatnot after their argument.
Oh yeah. And what about this one scene? Like, how did you get there? And like, oh, so you mean we should swim through those dirty sewage and get to the base? And then it's like, yeah, why not? Obi-Wan's like, what?
Well, I guess.
Yeah, I get the feeling Obi-Wan had that realization. What have I created? When he realized that he's throwing stuff that Obi-Wan would throw at him.
No, I don't think it was that. I think it was when he saw that face, he was like, oh. and I stayed here for a month doing jack shit. I think that was the case.
That too.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Avalon?
Oh, yes. Let me see here. Yeah. So, as Dylan said, I myself, when I first saw that one scene, it's like when the light goes off with Anakin and Padme's room. It's like I really did believe that Luke and Leia were being conceived at that point, and also how. Let's see here. It was it's like some type of like subtle thing that Genndy did, like some type of decency thing that he did regarding the physical relations. And also, let me see here. Like Obi-Wan told Anakin to be off the living force, and the thing is how the other Jedi, I don't think they talk about the living force, but they do talk about the force. It's Qui-Gon, episode 1. He speaks about the living force. Therefore, Obi-Wan learns it from Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon teaches us to Anakin about the living force. And so then let me see. Then there's there's Kashyyyk, but then also there's the training part. Count Dooku, yes, he gives great lines, as we spoke about here, like of how Dooku tells Grievous to stop using standard attacks and to use the unorthodox. Because here's the thing. If you want to take down Jedi, it's like you can't always use standard attacks. You have to go to do unorthodox things, like expect the unexpected, like change up your styles. It's like to confuse your enemy. And also, Count Dooku also talks to Grievous about the importance of holding the saber just right. Too tightly, and like there's a chance that he could crush it. The saber, because Grievous is very strong with those mechanical limbs of his, hold the saber too loosely, and he could lose it to his enemy with the Force. And Dooku says, "Don't let your pursuit of trinkets cloud your reality. Keep your focus on the main picture here." And so also, as Dooku says, if you are to succeed in combat against the best of the Jedi, you must have fear, surprise, and intimidation on your side, because fear can immobilize your foes, and also it can really cripple them somehow, and then it'll allow you to destroy them. And Sidious says, "Wise counsel, my apprentice, most wise." With how Grievous tells Sidious that the Jedi are stretched thin across the Outer Rim worlds.
Yeah.
So there's that maxim again. It's like divide and conquer, stretch your enemy too far, too thin. So they're about to launch their final operation. Obi-Wan and Anakin go to Nelvon. Obi-Wan says the iconic phrase again, "I've got a bad feeling about this." And Anakin kills a giant beast, and tribal people with tribal masks appear. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay, well, I guess there's that. So, shall we move on to chapter 23? Now, this is what some people have been waiting for a long while. Yes, the Battle of Coruscant, the beginning. Yes, so how does it begin? Well, Yoda is in his own chambers, meditating, but then he opens a window and says, the Separatists are attacking, city's under attack, and so they have to defend the city. And, well, they mount a very strong defense against the Separatists. Windu piloting a starfighter, and Sesatine as well, and they're mounting a big-ass defense. The battle is intense, from Mace Windu going to having his starfighter destroyed even though he was destroying several other enemy fighters, but he's got destroyed, so he was forced to basically go grab one of the droid starfighters for himself, as in take control of it. And, well, he managed to do damage. Yoda, he was using the Force to basically destroy all of the enemies, including all sorts of droidekas, big-ass ship carriers, and more. And then, in the end, Yoda and Windu are uniting their forces to basically go up against all the droids. And, well, they're putting up a great fight. And so, the fight is ensuing while Chancellor Palpatine is just chilling there, watching the entire battle. And then Shakti arrives with 2 more Jedi and clones. And, well, let's just say that then they hear a noise and Grievous arrives because he wants Palpatine. So there's that. Now, at the same time that this is happening, Obi-Wan and Anakin are Noban. They're basically getting introduced to the tribe of the Noban people. And they basically get explained that apparently there's some sort of entity or force that has been disturbing some sort of spiritual mother of sorts. And so they sent warriors after warrior to basically investigate. None of them returned. So they were choosing another warrior until Anakin interfered. So then they go into campfire and they basically, one of these spirits, I guess, is telling the old shaman, "Ghost hand." What does that mean? Well, not much, but Obi-Wan interprets it as, oh, somebody with some sort of weird hand? Well, Anakin's is here! Off cassette! And, well, they basically enlist Anakin to go and investigate the inside of the mother's cave to see what happened. And, well, that's what's going on in the 2 scenarios. So, chapter 23. How is it, guys? What do you think?
awesome.
It was specifically awesome. The part where Captain Porter was like holding up the droids, like it was like holding the DC-15 with one hand and then another with a pistol, and it was like, yeah.
Yeah, that was the most iconic scene of the entire series for many people, to see this one clone trooper just mowing down droids after droids all by himself.
Well, to be fair, he's an ARC trooper, so that's why he's a badass by default.
Yeah. And when I was rewatching the episodes, I saw that. I was like, when I was a kid, when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this is the episode I've been waiting for. But every time when they cut back to Anakin, Obi-Wan was like, no, give me back to that stuff. I want to go see the epic battles.
To be fair, I was kind of like that before until I basically realized what the parts of Obi-Wan and Anakin were truly meaning in terms of not, because it's basically supposed to be Anakin's test, his final test. And we're gonna get more in detail with the next two chapters, but yeah, so it's basically setting up Anakin's last trial. Well, it's even hinted in this chapter as well. So yeah, it's basically more of an inner conflict inside Anakin, actually. So it has a lot more in terms of not really symbolism, but more like subtle storytelling in a way, as well as character development for Anakin himself. So I grew to appreciate it a hell of a lot more over time. So
yeah,
that's how it
and
is.
another thing really impressive is like the Separatists really had the balls to just come with a bunch of shit tons of droids and ships, and they just wow, like it's just awesome to see the droids and the clones fight in this big city.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, and I was like, when I was seeing the massive space battle going on when they reached above, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is awesome. And then I see ships ramming into each other, and I was like, okay, that's kind of awesome, which would be replicated later in Rogue One, but that's a different matter.
Wait,
That's
what was
another media.
is this the episode where Mace Windu climbs up a vulture droid, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he just rips the circuit out and then just turns the ship and stands on there and flies the goddamn thing. I was like, whoa, that is bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was liking how they did the scene with Grievous arriving to abduct the Chancellor, because you hear that, because with Shakti there, she knows that footstep noise, and it was like, oh god, the Master of Horrors here.
Yeah, and Palpatine is like drinking his coffee plainly, like there's nothing going around. I mean, we all know why.
I was thinking to myself, okay, so Palpatine, you realize there's a war going on outside, and you're just casually drinking tea while you're watching your people, your clone troopers, getting viciously slaughtered, and you're just like, I'm going to enjoy this coffee and watch the massacre in person.
While Rome burned.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, indeed. So
And he just uses the excuse, but the battle is so far away. I'm like, granted, I should probably be thinking about safety, but the battle's so far away. And plus, I get to watch it from my luxurious condo.
Who do you think you are? Zemo from Civil War?
Well, he's the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, so I guess he has the authority there. So
Yeah, except that means he has to give up common sense in war.
yeah, well, obviously. Anyway, so anything else to mention in chapter 23?
So let me see here. So, yeah, Yoda uses the Force on big and small CIS vehicles. It's like, and then of course, obviously the connection to how he lifted up Luke's X-wing back in Episode 5. And so also there's a thing about how Obi-Wan says it's part of their ritual. You must be respectful regarding those funky bug things. It's like that go on Anakin's body, like to paint him. And the thing is, you have to be respectful of other people's customs, like when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Palpatine wants to sip tea and look at the battle. The thing is that what if there is some stray soldier, it's like him, who gets to you like from so far away and somehow kills you? The thing is, so Shakti was right to want Palpatine to get to his safety shelter, because it's like better be safe than sorry. And the thing is, how I'm thinking that Shakti knew that was General Grievous who was coming. Yeah, I'll stop right there.
Okay, so, well, with that, now we get to chapter 24. Okay, so this one, it has two parts again. So, first part is, well, Shakti and the Jedi, they grab Palpatine and they flee, while a good chunk of the clones stay, and also Senatorial guards, stay behind to try and basically hold off General Grievous. Well, they get absolutely slaughtered by Grievous. Not even a single one survives. So, yeah. And once Grievous ends with that, well, he chases off after Shakti and the others. Well, Shakti manages to use the Force to, not subdue, but basically distract Grievous by destroying one of the walls he was climbing on. And, well, the elevator arrives, they manage to get in, but then the Dorian Jedi uses his big-ass throat to make an entire big, huge rubble get on Grievous to make some time. Grievous, well, he quickly recuperates and is chasing them. And, well, Clone Trooper shoots rocket launcher in Grievous's face. But, well, all they try, they can't really escape from Grievous. There's all sorts of parts. They're trying to run, but doesn't really work too much. And, well, and then we see the Magna Guards showing up, I guess for the first, well, I don't know if it's the first time in Star Wars, but yeah, the Magna Guards show up here, and, well, now it's just the Jedi and the Palpatine against Grievous and the Magna Guards, and they're getting chased all the way across Coruscant, even as far as the Coruscant subway station. And, well, they managed to destroy some of the Magna Guards. Grievous corners him in the end, but Shakti used the Force to bind Grievous's cape to one of the trains. So she manages to make Grievous get taken away by a train. So they flee, and, well, that's the end of that part. Now, the second part, it deals with Anakin investigating the Mother's cave, inside the Mother's cave. And, well, he jumps in, he's investigating. He then finds that there's some ancient hieroglyphics and pictures in a wall, and he sees it, but then some smokes envelop him and he gets a vision of what happened before. And, well, we'll get into more detail with the vision, but let's just say it's not really pretty. So there's that. Then once he snaps out of the vision, he sees that there's a big ass machinery and all sorts of buildings and stuff that apparently it's the Separatist base in there. So he manages to get inside. He sees that there's some Techno-Union engineers. Apparently, they're doing some experiments to the Neobon people. And, well, they're not pretty. So there's that. And Anakin sees that one of the Neobon people are getting the treatment, and not pretty, like I said. Anakin tries to free him by destroying the droids, but then other Neobon people, using some sort of mind-controlling belts, attack Anakin, and, well, Anakin is trying to tell them, wait, no, I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to help you. Please, you gotta snap out of it. And that's the end of chapter 24. So, what do you guys think of this one, guys?
Interesting episode.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When I was like, I really love the duels with the Jedi and the guards, but the most hilarious thing when I look at that episode is the part where Grievous is just like, you gotta be kidding me. When the clones and guards stay behind, like, he just growls like, okay, we know where this is going. We might as well just stop. And I was thinking to myself, imagine this was parody. If this was parodied, I would think like, wait, we're red shirts. God, we're screwed. And then there's something about that scene where we see the doorway before Grievous busts out. You hear a chainsaw sound.
A chainsaw.
There's a chainsaw sound, and I was like, what was the clones packing that day?
No idea.
Yeah, when the slaughtering's happening, you hear a chainsaw sound, and I'm like, okay, where did that come from?
I don't know, to be honest.
And then we get another hilarious scene where Grievous is running down the elevator, catching up with it, and the clone is just standing there like, oh, look, a Grievous guy, a cyborg running down the elevator shaft. Might as well just blow it up. It's like Tuesday to me.
You know what's really funny? Like, I was like, hey, Trooper, why do you shoot a freaking missile inside an elevator? What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I guess he thought, oh, Grievous, swallow this one, asshole. But
I think the clone troopers, intelligence dropped. Oh shit, it's a cybernetic monster climbing down. What would be the most logical thing to do? I don't know, fire a rocket in our elevator. Because that makes sense, right?
well, to be fair, the normal clone troopers don't really have independent intelligence or independency of their own compared to the ARC troopers and Republic Commandos. So I guess that could be something. So there's that. Anything else to say on this one? Now I think we should discuss the Anakin portion. So what do you guys thought of that one?
Oh yes. Let me see here now. It's like, so let me see here. Like Anakin has the vision in the Nilbon cave of his journey to become Darth Vader. This scene's obviously similar to Luke's trial in the Dagobah cave, and also this scene like of how Anakin sees the images, like maybe they were made by like the tribal people back when they were cavemen, I suppose. Like like of how you see Anakin sees the images moving on the wall, and the thing is, it reminds me of how the images like the hieroglyphs like move like on that wall like in ancient Egypt, to back in the movie The Prince of Egypt, when Moses was having that one bad dream about like what happened like to him and his family before like he was found by the pharaoh's daughter or wife. And like the movie The Prince of Egypt, 1998, excellent movie, go watch it. But still, back to the main part right here. So as for Anakin, so obviously it's dark foreshadowing. It's like, and so I'll stop right there regarding Anakin.
Okay, well, let's just get to chapter 25 then. So let's end this. Okay, so chapter 25. Now, it goes with the Captain Fordo holding off the right part of the street. They were holding the right. The left was being held off by the Jedi, both Mace Windu and Yoda. They definitely were holding it out a lot because they were definitely massacring the shit out of the droids. And, battle was being brutal. It was amazing. And, then Mace Windu and Yoda, they get together and they're asking, what is the motivation for this invasion? There's no attempts to try to take Jedi Temple or the Senate. So, is it a distraction? And then they realize, Palpatine. And then there's several light gunships going on top. Mace Windu jumps on one of them and says, pilot, turn the ship around. Yes, sir. And so he basically tries to go and get Palpatine. And, then we see Shakti fleeing. Shakti and the Jedi with Palpatine fleeing into some sort of speeder in a tunnel. Now, here's the thing. Shakti stays behind and holds off the IG-100 Magna Guards, while Palpatine with the other two Jedi, they go and get to the ship. So to the bunker actually. She stays behind to fight all of the Magna Guards. Meanwhile, at the same time, Anakin was basically going to try to reason with, I guess, the Noban warriors, but because they had the mind-controlling belts, Anakin was unable to determine what was going on. But, the Noban warrior that was in the process of turning into one of those big-ass mutated versions of the Noban warriors, he sees what's going on, he frees himself, he tries to explain to Anakin that what's happening is that the belts they have are mind-controlling them, so destroy them. Anakin does. So he frees those warriors, they storm the base, they manage to free other warriors, take down the separatists, and, they managed to win, while the Techno Union is trying to flee in their Techno Union ship, but Anakin uses the dark side of the Force and chokes the shit out of them and kills them. So there's that. Now, the Noban warriors, they didn't really like the scenery, but in the end they decided they're gonna all stay in with only one hand, just like Anakin, because Anakin lost it by destroying the big facility. So that's where it went. Now, what's going on in Coruscant? Once Palpatine and the other Jedi get to the bunker, they're ambushed by Grievous. And, Grievous reveals his new modification to his body. 4 lightsabers! And he kills both Jedi and he wins. Shakti perceives the danger, and so she races to try and help the Jedi. Impossible. She gets subdued by Grievous and hanging in the wall, while Grievous flees with Palpatine. And while at the same time Windu arrives, tries to do something, all he did was manage to use the Force to rip and tear Grievous's chest, which gives him the cough and severely weakens him. So there is that. Grievous escapes, and Windu sees what happened at the end, and it's not really pretty. So there's that. So, and in the portion of Anakin manages to return the Noban warriors to the tribe, tries not really to place it first seeing them, but then they see that one of the kids befriended one of the mutated Noban warriors, and then they felt relieved that it was indeed them. So they definitely went sent back to the tribe, and Anakin sees what happened, and then they return to the ship. Anakin is repairing his robot hand. Then Mace Windu contacts Anakin and Obi-Wan and tells them Palpatine has been kidnapped by Grievous, so they have to return to Coruscant and, well, rescue Palpatine. And that's the end of chapter 25 and Clone Wars 2003. What do you think of this chapter, guys?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna talk about this thing because the part where the
Noban people?
blue ones, people are turning to cyborgs and monsters, but their children are still loving them. Parents, wives still care about them. Which reminds me, despite how a monster Darth Vader become, Luke still wants his father to be redeemed. I think it was like showing that image.
Yeah, it could be.
And the part where Grievous was like pulling out his two arms was like, what the? I was literally going, what the hell? Like you should have looked at the Jedi's faces. Like they were like, what the fuck is this? They were like shocked because they don't know how to respond. Obviously, they were cut down. And you could also see Palpatine's face. At first, he acts like he's scared, but then his face is like seeing things like everything's normal. Like he isn't scared anymore, which is implying that he's a Sith Lord already at this point.
What actually was implying is that he was pretending that he was scared, but not really in the end.
Yeah,
so that's
I mean,
what it was.
Because he himself planned that from the beginning.
Obviously, yeah. So we know that.
Yeah,
so,
and the legendary part where they literally end the movie before the beginning of
episode 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Mace Windu gives Grievous his cough. That was the moment I was like, oh man, Grievous is going to be nerfed, isn't he? Well, I can understand they made him too OP.
Well, it's not just that, but I doubt he would have been nearly as badass in live action. So there's that. Not to mention George Lucas.
Let's say he didn't get that injury. He would probably beat Anakin and Obi-Wan if it was possible.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe.
But we'll never know that because Anakin and Obi-Wan never fought Grievous in his prime.
Well,
in the micro series at least.
Well, yeah, but George Lucas made that intentional, so there is.
Yeah,
that.
but I was like, it was still a cool connective tissue, though, to link the two properties.
Not to mention, also give a reason why Grievous fell quickly in episode 3. So there's that. So, any more thoughts on chapter 25, the Battle of Coruscant, all of it?
Yes, let me see here. So, Anakin mutated Nova Warrior, freed the other Nova Warriors from the Techno Union. And one of the hallmarks of mad science is that like these mad scientists have to mutate people into gruesome monsters, or create gruesome monsters. For example, Dr. Frankenstein, Darth Sidious, and Darth Vader. It's like, and here, Techno Union scientists, the mad scientists with the Nelvon Warriors. And so also, Anakin makes his way towards the core of this base. He uses his right mechanical hand to summon the power crystal to him. And also, what we have to keep in mind here is that you look at what he does with the Force to kill the Techno Union people, is that he uses the Force even though his mechanical hand has been destroyed. And so the thing is, apparently even a stump of a hand, a flesh hand, can also do damage with the Force. And so just like Lamaya's quote, the Force is the energy of the living. And so there's also a thing about how I'm thinking that this is the time when Anakin does the Force choke for the first time. And so also the mutated Nelvon Warriors tear off their laser guns on the right sides of their bodies. I think they just do it to free themselves even further. And also, there's the YouTube channel Movie Flame, and he says that the Nelvon child goes to his or her father, and that this is reminiscent of Luke seeing his father after the Vader helmet is removed in Episode 6, similar to what Doan said just now. And so let me see. And so Obi-Wan inquires as to what Anakin saw in the cave, and Anakin says that he listened to the mother as the shaman said, and he was shown a vision. And Anakin doesn't tell him more details. And the thing is, part of Anakin's fault to Darkseid is that he doesn't tell Obi-Wan about these things, like the slaughter of the Tusken Raiders in Episode 2, and also what Anakin sees in the cave. It's on Nelvon. And also, the funky thing is that Grievous shows up in that one room and he reveals 2 other arms for the first time. It's how in the world was he able to make it over there where the other Jedi are? After the Jedi took Palpatine far away from Shakti, where Shakti was going to hold off those guards. And so yeah, Mace Windu uses the Force to crush the chest plating of Grievous, causing him to cough. Yes, as we spoke about. Anakin has made a new robotic arm, and he puts on like a black glove, like Luke does many years later. And so Obi-Wan says that the most difficult trial a Jedi must face is to look inside oneself, and we often see things we don't like, but these aspects are not set in stone. It is our decisions that shape our destinies. Then Mace Windu tells Obi-Wan and Anakin to return, and then Mace Windu charges them with rescuing the Chancellor, and that's it.
Yeah, indeed. Darksnovia, what do you think of the Battle of Coruscant and this finale?
Epic. It's a shame that this is the only source on screen that we have to see the Battle of Coruscant. Now we see it in Revenge of the Sith, but we don't see the full scale of the Battle of Coruscant. It was awesome actually seeing that when I was a kid, waiting for Revenge of the Sith eagerly. Well, I wasn't a kid. I was like 16 or 15. I was so hyped for Revenge of the Sith that seeing the invasion of Coruscant was so hype. I was so excited. Then seeing subplot of Anakin didn't really intrigue me as much as the stuff on Coruscant, because I was so excited for Revenge of the Sith, like my 17-year-old self, my eyes were glued to the TV, and then when the series finale ended, I was like, "Hey, this is it! God damn it! I have to wait until May for this."
Yeah, people had to wait. People have to wait more than a month to finally see Revenge of the Sith.
Hey,
I was
at least it was a better wait.
Waiting for Revenge of the Sith was killing me. Honestly,
Hey, it could be worse. It could have been worse if, since this was a TV show, if they did another season, you would have to wait a year probably.
Oh God.
or almost 2 years and have the final season suck and ruin the whole show. Oh wait, am I talking about Game of Thrones?
I thought you meant Samurai Jack, but oh well. So there's that. Anyway, so that was the Battle of Coruscant.
I thought it was a great series finale, and it was a great way to get people excited for Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yes, indeed.
Though honestly, I don't think it's as effective now as it was back in 2005.
I know.
Because it's been 15 years since the series ended, and I feel like if you're marathoning, this and Revenge of the Sith, yeah, it's great if you're watching both of them back to back. But it's just not. It doesn't feel as much like a cliffhanger, especially Revenge of the Sith, on your bookshelf or whatever DVD shelf. You know what I mean?
Or Netflix, or Disney Plus, or Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So there is that. Well, I do still think it is still kind of effective because I did do it recently for my marathon of all Star Wars movies, for episode 9 weeks ago. So there's that. So anything else to mention before we go to point number 4?
One last thing. It's like something like that I missed was how it's like they say a Jedi must face. What was it? The most difficult trial a Jedi must face is to look inside oneself. The thing is, how this reminds me of the line from the trailer for Spider-Man 3: "The greatest battle lies within, inside oneself." That's where the greatest battle is. Looking inside oneself. What the most difficult trial a Jedi must face. So that's it.
Okay. Well, I guess now we go into how did this TV series connect to episodes 2, 3, as well as the rest of the expanded universe. So let's go.
Beginning from the very beginning, you can see the clones marching, and Obi-Wan's like, even Master Qui-Gon wouldn't expect this. That scene is literally an homage to the ending of episode 2.
You could say that. Even has the same song.
Or does the series literally start after the ending of episode 2?
Chronologically, not much. It's like 2-3 months later. So there is that. Well, actually, the continuity of the Clone Wars 2003 it varies because chapter 6 and 7 is actually take place before 1, 2, and the others. So it seems like this series is in how it works in continuity. Like when you are just watching it by itself with the movies, you can see it without having to worry about reading other media. But when you're reading the other media, you can later see where each chapter actually goes chronologically. So that's how it actually goes. So it works both ways. For example, chapter 6 and 7 has Ventress being introduced to Count Dooku and Planet Red Attack. That happens before Star Wars Republic issues 51, 52, 53. Yep. And before Mace Windu. So there's that.
Yeah, and there's also we do later find out what happened to Dirge after the events of the first volume, and we see how he survived and what becomes of him ultimately by the end of the war.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It shows the further future sources shows how much Dirge is like capable in regenerating. Even at some point goes to the freaking sun, then partially regenerates. Like, wow.
Well, at the time, Dirge died in the sun. Obviously, much later used sources did say he survived much longer. But yeah, so there is that. Also, Anakin's scar, as we mentioned before, that was actually made by Ventress. Star Wars Republic issue 71, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, I believe George Lucas mentioned this. When people asked him, hey, how did Anakin get that scar? George Lucas was like, oh, we'll let the expanded universe handle that.
Oh, yeah. And the ARC Troopers definitely first appear in Star Wars Republic.
yeah, I think it was Republic issue 50. Yeah.
Also, there's one more thing that I found out when I was re-looking back on the Clone Wars show is that it's always mentioned in some descriptions of the duel between Ventress and Anakin that it's not taking place on Yavin 4 directly. Okay, they are, but like they mention this particular thing. They say, "Oh, they're fighting at the Temple of Exar Kun."
Oh, it is true.
It is true.
In future sources, Vader actually thinks about about Yavin when he, at the end of the episode 4. The Empire heads to Yavin 4 to destroy it, but Vader is like, is my past coming back to me? Vader's like wondering like that. Because he doesn't really want to, because Vader doesn't want to remember all the instances in his life when Anakin Skywalker was falling to the dark side, because it's painful memories.
Interesting. What source is that? Is it like Life and Legend of Obi-Wan or which one?
It's called The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader.
Okay. That one. Got it. So that's interesting. Also, something else regarding new connections. The planet Noban and its people, they showed up in Maul Lockdown, as well as Traitor's Gambit and a few other sources later on, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah. And we got to talk about the Labyrinth of Evil and the few chapters of, that thing. We all know this was going to be brought up.
Okay.
If I had to be honest, I take what Labyrinth of Evil says over micro series, considering the fact Revenge of the Sith novelization references Labyrinth of Evil, not the micro series that much in comparison.
Yeah, but then how the hell would you gonna have Grievous end in episode 3? Labyrinth of Evil has no way of showing Grievous being weakened. None. I've read it myself. How do you deal with that one?
Yeah.
Honestly, I guess you could say that the instances where it doesn't contradict the EU, we could count it. When it does contradict the EU, we dismiss it.
Yeah, but if you have no way of weakening Grievous before episode 3, well, how the hell
I'm saying certain instances like Mace Windu, like crushing General Grievous's chest, that happened. That's something that definitely happened.
Well, then again, the Revenge of the Sith novelization says that Grievous fought Mace Windu and Mace was shocked.
Yeah, it's very difficult to take one or the other. Even Lucasfilm didn't know it, actually. They had no clear answer at the time. They still had no answer even after 2005. So it seems like for now the best bet is take elements from both and make your own definitive version of the Battle of Coruscant, the one that makes the most sense for you.
I say Labyrinth of Evil is what we mostly take into account. The only parts of the micro series don't contradict Labyrinth of Evil,
which is basically Shakti with the Jedi, Grievous fighting. I still don't believe Mace Windu was beaten by Grievous, considering that Dooku can easily beat Grievous in a lightsaber duel, and yet Palpatine is more powerful than Dooku. And
it didn't
Windu.
say that. It kind of said that Mace Windu was fighting Grievous on a freaking train while standing on the top of it, but then Grievous's legs were magnetized on the train, so that's why Mace Windu escaped or something.
I don't find it too realistic, but whatever.
Well, I'm just saying that. So I'm saying the only thing that we can take into account in the Battle of Coruscant in the micro series is Mace Windu crushing General Grievous's chest.
I don't know about that, to be honest. I do mostly prefer doesn't treat Clone Wars aspect with some elements of Element of Evil, to be honest.
Yeah, but
there's no clear answer.
Revenge of the Sith, you could see General Grievous clearly putting his hand on his chest like he's pain in his first scene in the movie. So
I know.
So aspects of Labyrinth of Evil and the micro series both occurred.
Yeah.
Mostly Labyrinth of Evil.
Which is why I say there doesn't seem to be a clear one on this one. So
I think the best answer is the final 2 episodes of the micro series are S canon.
I guess
I got
in some ways.
The planet Ilum, that appeared during Ferris Opie and Luminara. That thing first appeared in the.
It was Jedi Quest.
And to see it in screen, how it looks like, was extremely cool.
Yeah, indeed. Also, the Magna Guards, they didn't show up in micro series first, as I thought. They actually showed up in one of the Boba Fett novels first, A New Threat.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
The thing I do love about the 2003 series felt like Granatowski was trying his hardest to make both sources of canon that were happening at the time, with some exceptions, like the final few episodes. Yeah. But in my opinion, I feel like there was no communication between, what the EU authors were doing and what Granatowski was doing.
I actually think it was, because if you notice in chapter 21, you see that Anakin is already on Coruscant, going to get knighted. But here's the thing, that happened shortly after Yoda Dark Rendezvous, and also which happened after Jedi Trial. Jedi Trial did not have the knighting, Yoda Dark Rendezvous didn't, but it happened after Jedi Trial. And then chapter 21. So I think there was communication. It's just for some reason the Battle of Coruscant itself has that big contradiction.
If you ask me, outlier. I think most of the Battle of Coruscant was more of an artistic decision more than anything else. Why contradictions between Labyrinth of Evil and the Battle of Coruscant exist. I think Granatowski wanted to do it. He had his own vision of what he wanted for the Battle of Coruscant.
According to what I heard, it's basically like Genndy got a earlier outline for the drafts of Labyrinth of Evil, and then he used it. But obviously, James Lucino changed it in the final one.
It could be.
So there was a communication, but not really.
Yeah, that seems to be the only outlier. But excluding that, the rest of the series, you can, especially from chapter 1 to 21, you see that there was plenty of communication between him and the other people managing the continuity in Star Wars. Because if you notice, all those other chapters, specifically 1 to 21, there's no real contradictions. Is there really?
No.
Another thing I found it odd is that Anakin from Jedi Trial's cover has the hairstyle from episode 3, but Anakin in chapter 21 still has the hairstyle from episode 2. I found that odd.
You gotta take into consideration that's for marketing.
Yeah, that was need for marketing. So there is that.
There is one thing I forgot to mention. That boy that was seen on Dantooine during the battle, well, he doesn't appear again in the EU, his family disappears afterwards during the annals of history, but it was mentioned that there was someone publishing stuff regarding the Battle of Dantooine, and they mentioned how, the drawings are very familiar from a boy that was there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's another interesting thing. You remember that weird, crazy-ass droid was fuming our flamethrowers in the arena?
Yeah.
Yeah, that droid is actually made by General Tagg's brother, believe it or not.
Oh, interesting.
Whoa.
So, any other connections between the expanded universe? Don't want to mention that Phase 2 armor started being deployed in Chapter 22, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Something. Got a question, though. Did that also show up in Republic Issue 71? Because I don't remember it being deployed there. Or was it?
It was shown in one of the Republic comics, so I guess that was the first.
Interesting.
Oh, they never show this, but they did do a comic during the Clone Wars series, I think, where you have the three-way match between Grievous, Ventress, and Dirge for total command of the Separatist fleet.
Yeah, it was Clone Wars Adventures.
Yeah.
And I was like, imagine if they made that animated. Imagine if they animated that.
That would have been awesome. Or you know what would have been an awesome story animated in this style? Has anyone read that story where Yoda was carrying like a giant fucking minigun?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Imagine if that animated.
Oh god.
I'm not exaggerating. Yoda literally took out a minigun and destroyed a whole army.
That sounds something.
Maybe not be able to see Yoda in the same light again. Anyway, Avalon, what's your thoughts?
Let me see here. Okay, so the way I see this thing, it's like how it works in terms of symmetry. Like you see, Volume 1 looks a lot like Episode 2, Anakin's hairstyle, Phase 1, Clone Troopers. And so Volume 2, towards Episode 3, Phase 2, Clone Troopers, Anakin has the longer hair. And also Obi-Wan's hairstyle is different as well. And so also, even in terms of the vehicles too, remember, a Clamor class frigates, it's like that we see in Episode 2. And then there's that's with Volume 1 of Clone Wars. And then there's the Venator class Star Destroyers, the immediate precursor to the Star Destroyers that we see in the original trilogy. We see them like in Episode 3 and Volume 2 of the Clone Wars series, as well as like yes, the Tri-Fighters. I think that's it for me for right now. Yeah.
Okay.
There was the scene where Dooku was training Grievous. Grievous literally says in the movie, "I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku," and we get to see that in the micro series.
Yep.
You remember that blue ship Anakin was riding in the beginning? That is the same ship Plo Koon was riding during Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, indeed. Also, I gotta mention that apparently the Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, Chapter 21, it also references the events of Star Wars: The New Droid Army, actually, by mentioning Anakin, how he went against, he surpassed the trial at the hands of Count Dooku. He basically means Dooku doppelganger on the New Droid Army, if you remember, the Force
Wait,
projection.
isn't that Episode 2?
No, because Obi-Wan was there, and if you remember, that was a defeat. No, they were talking about Anakin's achievements that were similar to the trials, or deadlier than the trials. So, no, it means the New Droid Army. Not to mention, remember, at this time, it was already almost 3 years after Episode 2. So, there's that. Which is interesting that it references a kind of obscure Game Boy Advance game. That's odd.
I find that interesting.
Yeah,
it's just that Genndy did his research enough. He knows what he's doing when he was making this thing.
Yeah. Indeed.
And George Lucas, I heard that according to the interview, Genndy was allowed to basically read the scripts and see the designs of the Revenge of the Sith to make his cartoon feel more connected to Revenge of the Sith movie when it comes out.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is interesting. So, yeah. There is that. Any other?
One more thing for me. They mentioned that Genndy wanted to pay homage to the original droid cartoons when they mentioned C-3PO having very expressive eyes.
Yeah. So, which is awesome. So, there is that. Any other mentions?
Wait. Oh, you remember seeing Kukruk from the Grievous section?
Yeah.
Many people think he died there, but he was actually in a forced hibernation or something. And he survives all the way to 138 ABY.
Huh. That's interesting. Well, there's something. So, okay, so I guess that's it. So, shall we get on to conclusion of Tartakovsky's Clone Wars?
Okay.
Okay. Well, who wants to go first?
Well, I'll be the first to do it. So I will look at this show as both an underrated classic and possibly one of the best examples of 2D animation Star Wars. And to this very day, I think it's one of the best animated Star Wars products and this is just me being biased, it's up there with the Clone Wars series. I think because I'm more of a fan of 3D animation, but that's a different topic altogether. But I do love the animation of the Clone Wars micro series. And I'd put it up there with the Clone Wars 2008 CGI series when compared to all the other TV shows they've done.
Yeah, indeed.
And lastly, I love a lot of the stuff in here. Like I said, I didn't like it that when they were so short, when they got longer, I loved them. And I loved all the big scales they put onto it while also focusing on character and expressive animation instead of using dialogue a lot.
Yeah, indeed. So that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
I'll go. This is my favorite Star Wars show, and I don't think there's gonna be any new show that's gonna top it any soon. Maybe The Mandalorian season 2, maybe, but currently not. I specifically like this show because it actually, when Genndy was making this show, he actually studied the previously established material, and he didn't disrespect it, unlike some other guy with a cowboy hat. But yeah, that's a different story.
That will get its own ass ripping later.
Yeah, season 1 and season 2, for the most of the time, season 2, they focus the story on action and imagery instead of using wars, which I appreciate a lot. And I especially like season 3 because it had direct connections to episode 3, make me want to watch episode 3 again. Yeah,
Me
so
too.
that's that.
Okay. Well, next.
Okay, let me see. Well, I must say that I love the 2003 Clone Wars micro series. I really love it. And the thing is that, yes, it is underrated. And I'm so glad that Genndy Tartakovsky, the guy who was involved with Samurai Jack and Dexter's Laboratory, made it. And the thing is, the art style, it definitely holds up today. The visuals are great. It's the dialogue is good. But the thing is, even without the dialogue, it's still great. Because the action scene, visual storytelling. And the thing is, this is definitely a classic. It will definitely stand the test of time. And it might even beat the 2008 Clone Wars series as well.
I say it beat it, but oh well. Anything else?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Darksnovia, you will go or I go?
Go.
Well, Clone Wars 2003, my favorite television show of Star Wars of all. Clone Wars 2008, I was obsessed with it, but nowadays I do not really have the same fondness as I did. Clone Wars 2003, on the other hand, I still have the same fondness. In fact, I think I have more of it now that I know even more of the expanded universe. So I actually do really like it more nowadays than I did years ago. Even though years ago, I loved the ever-living hell out of it. And I saw it when it came out on TV. So that's surprising. So, yep. I love it, and every time I marathon the Star Wars movies, I cannot resist to put this in the middle of episodes 2 and 3. I really can't resist. I just do it. Episode 9, I was like, do I put Clone Wars micro series or do I not? And I said at the end, screw it, I'm doing it. So there's that. Even though Darksnovia said, don't bother, not necessary, I said, I'm watching it, I don't care. So that's how much I like Clone Wars 2003. So there is that. I don't have much to say, to be honest, other than amazing show, love it, great story, even if it's mostly visuals, great characters, great everything. So it's great. So Darksnovia, take it away.
Oh, guys, sorry if I was kind of silent through most of this podcast. Everyone here had better things to say than I did for most of this podcast. The only thing I can say is thank you, Neo Reality, for coming here to guest star in a second podcast. I hope to do another one, hopefully on TCW in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting one.
And we also want to get Jerry for TCW, the new canon portion.
Clone Wars 2003 has a special place in my heart. Even before I heavily dived into the EU, it was something that I've always loved and I've always wanted more of. I never got it. Thinking about it in retrospect, I'm satisfied what I got. The only thing I could say is I wish this show got a Blu-ray release, or at least on Disney+. It's such a shame that this is an important show like this has become an obscure part of Star Wars history.
Yeah.
Even Genndy, he has said that he wished that it was at least partly canon.
Regardless if it's canon or not,
I know.
that's completely irrelevant. Without this show, there would be no Clone Wars, there would be no Rebels, Resistance, or Mandalorian. Everything started with this show. Yeah, I know droids and Ewoks came out first, but let's be honest, those shows fucking sucked.
At least droids suck.
It's I feel like Clone Wars was the first time Star Wars managed to actually do something good outside the films on TV. It did great in the books and the comics, and this show proved that Star Wars had enough room to tell stories on the small screen. And I feel like for history purposes, the show needs to be preserved in some way because it's such a shame that this show is not as big as the other ones. But anyway, that's all I have to say. May the force be with us all, and see you guys next time with another podcast. Later.
Live long and prosper.
See ya. Bye, everyone. See you soon.
And may the force be with you.